All right, I think we're up and going. A little late, but we're up and going.
All right.
Let me just make sure everything's working over on this end of things. Yep. All right, let me mute the TV and we'll get started.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Ready to roll.
Oh, I gotta bring my mic down here. There we go. Much better. Mike likes it much better when it's close to my face. Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 22 of the Hockey Nuts Podcast. My name is Wayne Halley. I'm here with Steve Ball. Once again, Steve, how's it going tonight?
I'm doing good, Wayne. Good to be with you tonight.
All right, we're recording here again on Friday night. Seems to be starting to be our normal night around here.
Yeah.
Because neither one of us seem to have time during the week anymore to get it done until Friday night. So here we are, Friday night, once again, recording our next episode of the Hockey Nuts Podcast. So anyway, what we do last week, we did it on Friday night as well. So we're exactly a week out. So we got about a week's worth of stuff to get caught up on. And, of course, this past week was the second of 2 weeks for most NHL teams or as far as the NHL bye weeks are concerned. So we had another light week around the schedule on the ice. But off the ice, again, it was a very busy week. And we've got some stuff. And we've got some stuff that affected one of our teams this week. So
Oh, yeah.
let's get started. But before we do, I really want to open the show with talking about Vegas. Because as we sit here tonight, they are, well, first of all, they played Tampa Bay last night in a matchup of number 1 versus number 2 in the league in terms of points. And Vegas blew Tampa Bay out of the water last night. It was a 4-1 game. And it was in Tampa. So a home game for Tampa, and they couldn't beat Vegas. So now Vegas is just 2 points back of Tampa for the top spot in the NHL. Vegas plays again tonight. So you know what that means? And because of the fact that Vegas has beat Tampa twice this year, they hold the tiebreak against Tampa. That means with a win tonight, the Vegas Golden Knights will be the number 1 team in the NHL. How strange does that sound?
Absolutely incredible. And I mean, and they would be the number 1 team in the NHL, and we're pushing February. I mean, that's I could see it in early January. You know, I mean, you could see something like that in the first 10 games of the season. But this is really, I don't know what to say. You know, I'm really at a loss for words. And
if someone would have,
I mean, we played them as you know,
yep.
We played them recently in Vegas, and actually had a darn good chance of winning that game, but lost in the third period, really.
Yep.
So,
but you know what? Everybody's playing that kind of game against Vegas. That's the thing with them. It's the game is close, going right to the end of the game, and then something happens at the end. Almost every single game, Vegas either comes back and wins the game, or they tie the game late and win it in overtime, or the game stays tied going into overtime and Vegas wins it, or that's just the way they've been all year long. They're just hang around, and then Vegas comes up and bites them, and it's just amazing to watch.
Right.
And with that in
It's
mind,
almost surreal.
yeah, yeah,
It's almost surreal.
yep, yeah. It's just, and they're a fun team to watch. I mean, I've been watching a lot of their games in recent weeks and months, and it's just, it's a fun team to watch. The energy that they play with is unmatched by just about everybody else in the league.
Right.
They just play with so much intensity. They don't give up, and it's just they wear teams out. Is just essentially the way they play is the intensity that goes from the puck drop in the first period all the way till the final buzzer, and they
Right.
just don't stop skating. They don't stop. They outwork every team they play, and that's their game, and they're
Right.
doing it. They're on the cusp of being the number one team in the NHL here on January 19th.
Right.
Well over halfway through the season. We're almost at the All-Star break, and here they are at the top of the standings.
Yep.
It's just it's amazing to see, and if you say that you said that they would be the number one team in January back at the beginning of the year, number one, you're lying.
Yeah.
Number two, nobody would believe you. So
Right. That's right.
But here they are. And guess what?
Yep.
After they finish with Florida tonight, they jump on a plane and they fly to Raleigh.
Wow.
And they play Carolina on Sunday. And I am going to do everything I can to make it to that game. I've got Sunday off. I've got to make a quick trip up to Boone to drop off some stuff at my daughter's dorm, and then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to try to make it to that game.
Wow. That is that's a long day, but that also will be an amazing day if you get tickets to that game.
Yep. Well, it's not a question of if. The tickets are available. It's just whether or not I can get back in time to go. So, and the tickets aren't that bad. I looked on SeatGeek a few days ago, and you could get tickets to that game for $20-something. I don't know what it is right now. I'll take a quick look here. Yeah, $23 if you want to sit up high.
Amazing.
Yep. So what are you doing Sunday, Steve?
Let's see. Sunday.
I haven't bought them yet, so I can technically buy as many as I need.
I'd have to look into that one, Wayne. Sunday, I am not sure as we sit here right now. I'd have to check into that. What time's the game?
6 p.m.
6 p.m.?
Yep.
Let me get back to you on that.
All right.
I will get back to you on that.
So
we'll
yeah.
See.
So yeah, I think it'll be a fun game to go see. But yeah, $23 is the
Incredible.
It's the lowest price seats available.
In the NHL.
Section 308. We can see the hottest team in the NHL.
Amazing.
Coming up. And they'll be here all weekend. They get here tonight after the game. They generally fly out, so I'm assuming they're flying out of Florida tonight. So they'll be spending the entire day here tomorrow. They'll probably have practice at PNC tomorrow at some point.
Yep. Truly amazing.
Yep.
Truly amazing.
All right. Well, let's get started with the rest of our podcast and follow the format we've done. And always, first and foremost, is we talk about our teams.
Yep.
And I don't know, who do you want to start with this week?
You want to start with the Rangers tonight?
Let's start with the Rangers tonight.
We'll start with the Rangers, and we'll talk about. I think what's a good way to start this, Wayne, is just to say that the Rangers really for quite some time, up until one game this week, they just haven't played well. They didn't play well in the Winter Classic for the whole game. They played a partial game here and there. They've been on the ice. They played well, but they haven't played consistently well. And I don't know what it is. I know that the game against the New York Islanders last Saturday was just, if you don't think that Matt Barzal is the leading candidate for the Calder Trophy, I'd like to. I mean, I could see a case being made for Brock Besser, but it's one of those two. I mean, he played an incredible game, and you could make an argument that he is playing better all around right now than John Tavares. Is if they lost Barzal right now, they'd be hurting. The Islanders, they'd be hurting big time.
And they've been playing inconsistent as well, too.
They have.
They've had their own struggles.
But they didn't play inconsistent in that game. They beat the pants off us 7-2. And that was really, I mean, we were never in that game. It was an ass whooping.
Yep.
So that started out the week. And, of course, I wasn't very happy the next night either. We were ahead 2-1 and lost 5-2 to Pittsburgh in a game that looked like we were starting out to come back and play very well in, and then fell off. And of course, when you're chasing the game in Pittsburgh, that's the worst place to chase a game in.
Yeah.
And they came back and beat us 5-2.
But that's a rough way to come out of your break.
Oh yeah.
With two quick losses.
I didn't expect with these 4 games we were playing, I didn't expect to win all 4 of them at all, but I was hoping to pick up 3 wins.
Yeah.
Well, that went by the wayside. And then, we had the day off and went into the 3rd game in a 4-night stint against the Flyers, and really never looked back in that game. We played great hockey in that game. And I thought, okay, well, whatever happened, it's out of their system and they'll get back. And here we are against one of our arch rivals, and really beat them soundly, 5-2. And we get to the game last night against the Buffalo Sabres, and we score, and we're playing great in the first period, and then Buffalo ties it. And then we score again, and it seems like we're getting back. The momentum keeps, and then Buffalo ties it. And they're off. Some of them are off stupid mistakes, penalties, things that are costly. We took a 3-2 lead, and then Buffalo tied it. And then finally scored at the end of the game to win that game 4-3, but a very hard-fought, contested game by the Sabres. And I really thought,
it seems like the Rangers just let them hang around. That's a team you want to put away.
Right. Well said. And so, as I said, and of course we're suffering from and we'll get to it a little bit later on. We're suffering, we lost Kreider. We didn't have Kevin Hayes in that game. We don't have Mark Stahl. He's out. So we're suffering some becoming major injury problems. But you find a way to adapt. You at least win games against the worst team in the Eastern Conference. And we did win last night. But I don't think Alain Vigneault can be happy at all with that win. So, we'll get into it a little bit further here. I mean, it was announced today there's a major injury to our team, and Kevin Shattenkirk, and whether or not he's back this year in the regular season, we don't know. But I immediately got the Twitter feed hitting my cell phone from Rangers fans all over, and there's a lot of them that still want to see Alain Vigneault fired. And New York's like Boston and Montreal. You got a ton of negative fans. I wish they'd just go pull for the team they really want to root for, whether it's the Islanders or the Devils or whatever. Just quit pulling for the Rangers. Don't watch them anymore. Go watch a team that makes you happy rather than make you negative and sad.
Yeah, Boston's got their share of negative Nellies as well.
I don't want to talk to fans like that because they're not fans. But they're calling for his head because he knew that Shattenkirk was hurt back in September and made comments about his play during the season, and for that reason, he needs to be fired.
It's because they all think they can coach the team better than AV. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They can step on the ice or get behind the bench and coach the team better than he can.
Yep.
Like he's wearing ice skates and should be on the ice making the team win each time.
Yep.
But I don't know. I'm sitting here myself, and I'm not being 100% positive about the team, but I'm just this team. I think is one of the 16 best teams in the NHL. I think they deserve to be in the playoffs. Whether we make it or not, I don't know. But
Yeah, they're
I'm
in a
not going
tough
to.
division.
They're in a tough division. They're in a tough situation right now, injury-wise, to major players on their team. They're not playing consistently, but you know, I still am going to say I think they're one of the best teams and make the playoffs. Are they going to win the Metropolitan Division? Probably not. But I'm not sitting here worried about it or calling for Alain Vigneault's head because the team isn't playing well.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about it. We've got a very tough February coming up and end of this month with a 4-game road trip out west. But I'm still optimistic.
Yeah, you got some you got some late nights ahead of you if you're going to try to watch those games.
And Rick Nash, it is true. Rick Nash is playing great right now.
Yep.
So if Rick Nash is on his game and scores 35, he's got 13, 14 goals now. If he scores 35 goals this year, 40 goals, I think we make it hands down.
Yep.
So be optimistic about our team, That's all I'm saying. Anyways, I went on a little bit too long there, Wayne, but that's the Rangers in a nutshell in the last week.
Yeah, kind of an up and down week for them. Well, let's talk about the Hurricanes next. They're a local team, of course, as everybody knows. And last week we had talked about the home and home with the Capitals. Of course, as of the recording time, they had won the first game 3-1. Well, on the second night, this is a true home and home, 2 games, 2 nights in opposite buildings. They played the Capitals at home, and Washington ended up beating them in that game 4-3. And then on Sunday, Calgary came into Carolina and beat them 4-1. And Carolina just looked lackluster in that game. They just looked like they didn't want to be there in that Calgary game. At least the Washington game, there was a lot of effort there. I think Carolina should have won that game or could have easily won that game, but for whatever reason, Washington ended up just getting the better of the bounces and came away with the 2 points in that one. So the Carolina Hurricanes limped into their 5-day break with 2 straight losses, one to the Capitals, one to the Flames.
Right.
And they've been off since then. So they had the 15th through the 19th off. So they get back on the ice tomorrow at Detroit. 7 o'clock game there in Detroit. And then, of course, they fly back home the next night and play the Vegas Golden Knights, a game that I'm hoping to go to see, assuming I can get back from Boone early enough early enough in the day to get to that game. But I really want to go see the Vegas Golden Knights play. So we'll do our best to go see that game anyway. So, so quiet week for the Hurricanes. Officially, as far as our podcast is concerned, they had an 0-2 week. Question marks there. Again, goaltending has been a bit of an issue once again, or just overall team defense. But the biggest problem with the Calgary game was just overall, just, I don't know, lack of effort is the right way. They didn't see the same Carolina team that we had seen in recent weeks and months.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. Let's hope that the 5-day break will do them some good and they come back out on the ice ready to go and flying, because they don't really have a whole lot of injuries, although they did suffer one in the Calgary game to Sebastian Aho, which we'll talk about later in the show. All right, well, that's pretty much it with the Hurricanes. Let's talk about the Bruins. And they have continued to play extremely well.
Yes.
Going back to the beginning of the week, of course, they had their 5-day break from the 8th to the 12th, so they came back on the ice on Saturday the 13th at Montreal and they ended up winning that game 4-3 in a shootout. A very fun game to watch. That game went back and forth. It could have gone either way. But Boston is beginning to, for a while there, for a few seasons since their cup year, when they were beating Montreal on a fairly regular basis. After that, once the reins of the net got turned over from Tim Thomas over to Tuukka Rask pretty much permanently after that, Boston began struggling against Montreal, and they, for whatever reason, Montreal's had their number for a number of seasons, but this year seems to be a little bit different. First of all, this meeting with the Canadiens on the 13th was the first game against them this season. So it was officially the first game that Claude Julien coached against his former team. But he got fired almost a year ago, calendar-wise.
Right.
So a lot of time passed there, and I think that might have helped the Bruins. The Bruins have been playing well this season. They're playing confidently. They probably went into Montreal and just said, look, what's in the past is in the past. We're a confident team. We're playing well. We're just going to treat Montreal like any other team and not our biggest rival. And they did. They put together a pretty solid win. It took going all the way to the shootout to get it. So they ended up giving Montreal a point in that game, but they ultimately got the win on that one. The next game, Dallas against Boston in a rare Monday matinee game. Of course, Monday was Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I got home from work to catch the very tail end of that game. It was 2-2 late in the third when I turned on the game. And I ended up watching that last 5 minutes or so of the third, and then the overtime period, of course. And I was a bit perturbed in that one because what essentially gave Dallas the game was Boston got a penalty. And it really, the penalty never got served. Referee put his arm up. It was a hit behind the net. I didn't think it was anything more than a hit, but I don't know if they were going to call a hook or a check from behind. We never even found out, or I never went back and looked to see what the penalty was, because essentially what always happens, referee puts his arm up to signal the delayed penalty. The other team pulls their goalie because they know as soon as the team that did it touches up, the whistle blows. So you can pull your goalie essentially for free. Well, Dallas ended up scoring before they even blew the whistle for the penalty. So, but whatever it was, I didn't think that it warranted a call there. But what do we know? We're not NHL referees. So I was a little pissed about that one. But anyway, Boston got another point out of that one. And then the next couple nights later, they played Montreal and pretty much beat them start to finish. It wasn't, Montreal just didn't have much effort in that game. In fact, there's been a lot of press ever since that game where Montreal's not showing any effort. They're not showing, the desperation that they need to have, being the spot in the standings that they're in. And, there's a lot of questioning going on there in Montreal at the members of this team and to some extent the management of the team. So Boston beat them pretty soundly there in that game. Not really a whole lot to talk about. Bergeron got another hat trick in that game, so he's been on fire lately. And other than that, it's just a sound.
The whole team has been on fire.
Yeah, it's been a sound win there. And then the next night, they went into New York and beat the Islanders much in the same fashion that they beat Montreal. It was just an overall great effort, start to finish. Bruins exposed some weaknesses that the Islanders have in net and on defense, and ended up winning that game 5-2. So Boston got a total of 6 points out of a possible 8 on the week, and they are now sitting 15 straight games without a regulation loss. The Bruins are. And I saw a graphic late last night before I went to bed. In the last 26 games, this amazed me because I knew the Bruins have been playing well, but I didn't think they were playing that well. In the last 26 games, so if you take a 26-game comparison between the Bruins and the rest of the league, all the other teams in the league, just in the last 26 games, basically, why that number? Probably that's when the Bruins started playing well, when they stopped playing 50-50 hockey, where they win one, lose one. The Bruins have 19-3-4 in those last 26 games. That's tied for first in the league. That record has earned them 42 points, which is actually first in the NHL. In that span, they've scored 3.54 goals per game, which is best in the NHL. And they've allowed 2.02 goals against per game, which is also first in the NHL.
Wow.
So
very, very good.
So, yeah, they're on fire, and I'm excited about it. I can't.
Yeah,
I got to tell you, Tuukka's playing well. The young players that they've got coming, that are essentially, I mean, the team's got a whole line plus full of rookies, and they're all playing well. They're all playing amazingly well. The top line of Bergeron, Pasternak, and Marchand is probably arguably one of the best in the league right now in terms of production, and it's just they're firing on all cylinders right now. The only worry I have is I just hope they're not peaking too early. That's the only thing.
Right. Right. Well, you can never, and you're looking at Tampa Bay right now, who's at 65 points, and they're not playing too well in their last 10, but they've been on top of the whole thing.
Yep.
Practically for two solid months now. So.
And they're within shouting distance of Tampa Bay. They're not far back from them.
No, they're not.
In fact, they're closer to Tampa Bay points-wise than they are to Toronto, who's directly behind them in the standings.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my point being that, it's hard to maintain the level of play that Tampa Bay had going on there for week after week after week after week. They were just month after month. It's hard to do.
Yep.
So, confidence is a lot of it, but when you lose and then you win and then you lose a couple more, it doesn't take much.
Nope.
And all of a sudden, then you're starting to think twice about things, rather than one guy being in on the forecheck, five guys being in on the forecheck. All of a sudden, only two are in on the forecheck, and the puck gets down the ice, somebody scores. All kinds of things start setting in. And you start losing that, feeling of invincibility.
Yep.
It happens. Sets in. So,
Boston, actually, I just looked at the standings. They're 5 points behind Tampa Bay with a game in hand.
Yep.
And behind Boston in third spot is Toronto, and they are actually 5 points behind Boston. But Boston has 3 games in hand on Toronto.
Yeah.
Plus the 5-point lead. So in that sense, they're essentially closer to Tampa Bay than they are to falling out of that spot, that number 2. They're in a real strong hold of that number 2 spot in the Atlantic right now.
Right.
Which is very good. And actually, if you look at the overall standings, officially Boston is third in the NHL in number of points. We're tied for third anyway. Tampa's still on top in the league with 65. Vegas is at 63. And then Boston, Nashville, and Washington are all tied at 60.
That's right.
And everybody else is in the 50s. Everybody else with a realistic shot of making the playoffs anyway.
Right. Right. They're playing. I mean, we talked about Vegas to open the show, but Boston's right there. The Colorado Avalanche.
Yep.
They're playing unbelievable right now, and that's who we have to play tomorrow. But so there's some teams that are really, really, putting the pedal to the floor right now, and makes for watching some good hockey.
And they talk about how January and February are the dog days of, how baseball has the dog days of summer. Well,
Yeah.
the January and February is the dog days of winter, and usually these 2 months are when teams start to separate themselves. The good teams
Right.
start showing like they are, and the bad teams start falling in the standings. So,
Right.
and yeah, to everyone's surprise, of course, we all we talked about Vegas to open the show, but Colorado, they're 9-1 in their last 10. They've won 8 in a row,
Yep.
and they're now 25-16-3. Who'd have thought they'd be doing as well as they were
Yep.
so far this season? LA is actually on the other side of things right now. They've lost 5 in a row. They're 3-6-1, although they still have a 24-16-5 record thanks to the hot start that they got. They're falling fast.
Yep.
I mean, they basically passing Colorado in the night as far as the standings. Colorado's on their way up the standings, and LA is on their way down. And right now, both teams are in a virtual tie with each other. But they're headed in opposite directions. Another team that's playing extremely well, Nashville. Of course, they've been playing well all season, but they've won 4 in a row.
Yep. Nashville is playing very, very well.
Yep. Calgary's won 7 in a row. They're 7-2-1. And yep.
The Calgary Flames playing exceptionally well.
Yep. And we expected them to be a good team this year, and they hadn't really shown it up until recently. But they appear to be putting things together. So,
right.
So yeah, I mean, there's it's just a lot going on around the league that just surprises.
Any teams that you could say, hey, Steve, put a fork in, they're really not gonna. They're toast.
What was it last week? I said that about Edmonton.
We did.
But here they are. They've won 2 straight, but they'll probably turn around and lose 3 more. So, yeah, other than the teams that we've been talking about, of course, Arizona, Buffalo, Ottawa, Montreal, Vancouver, Florida, Edmonton, Detroit, I think we can put a fork in them.
Yep.
I just don't see any of those teams coming back. And Carolina,
if
they don't get things turned around, those 2 losses right there, I know it's only 2 in a row, but if it goes beyond that, they're heading in that direction too.
Yeah, Carolina has to turn it around right now.
Yep.
And stranger things have happened. You could see them in 2 weeks from now, and they're back in the playoff position. So
because we've talked about in the past that 95 points is probably what it's going to take to get in the playoffs.
Yeah,
most years. So if you look at that, they need 47 more points.
They're halfway there.
Yeah. They need 47 more points and
37 games to do it.
37 games to do it.
So that's a very good way to look at it, Wayne.
Yeah.
That's a very good measuring stick.
It's doable. It's doable, but
it is doable. But if we say that about every team, looking at the Pittsburgh Penguins, okay, they've got 34 games and they got to get 42 points.
Yep.
Hey, you're gonna have to play some good hockey.
Yep. And that's a team that's definitely capable of doing it with all the talent they've got.
Yep. So that's a very good measuring stick. I like that one.
Yep.
Because 95 points might not do it.
It might not do it.
It'll
at least put them close to the line anyway.
Oh yeah.
Going into the last week of the season.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's because there was one season there recently. Bruins got 96 points and they ended up on 9th place. So
yeah.
But
that might have been last year.
But most years, 95 points is good enough for 8th place.
Yep.
But yeah, there was a recent year there where the Bruins got 96 points and were in 9th place. We're on the outside looking in, which is mind-boggling to me. knowing that
Yes, it
96 points back years ago, back before we had these 3-point games anyway, 96 points would get you third or fourth at worst
yeah.
in the
No,
conference.
no problem. That's
and,
right.
and home ice.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't even get you in the playoffs guaranteed.
Yeah. Oh.
I don't believe there's a team out there though that has gotten 97 points and missed the playoffs. I don't think. I think the highest was the Bruins getting 96 that one year and missing the playoff. I think that's the most points any team has gotten and missed the playoffs. I could be wrong about that, and I'm sure some people will correct us if we are. But yeah, so. All right, well, I don't have any other general discussion to go about, so let's talk about some of the stories that we've got going on around the league. And, of course, we're going to start with injuries. Transactions. We had a couple of those. I only have one. It's a signing. Defenseman Derek Englund signed a one-year, $1.5 million contract with the Vegas Golden Knights back on Monday. Englund could have become an unrestricted free agent on July 1st. He was selected from the Calgary Flames at the 2017 NHL expansion draft on June 21st and has 13 points in 41 games. Englund, who's 35, has 99 points in 510 NHL games with the Penguins, Flames, and Knights. He is the third Golden Knights player who could have become an unrestricted free agent on July 1 to sign a contract with Vegas. Defenseman Braden McNabb signed a 4-year, $10 million contract back on November 30th, and forward Jonathan Marchessault signed a 6-year, $30 million contract on January 3rd. Forwards David Perron and James Neal each can become unrestricted free agent on July 1. So those are two guys that we should look to see get signed here pretty quick. The Golden Knights lead the Western Conference with 61 points, or that was as of the writing of that article. I think they've got a couple more points since then, and are 4 behind the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they're actually 2 behind Tampa Bay for the best record in the league. So here's another signing here for Vegas. Basically, looks like what they're doing is just going one by one down the whole roster and getting a sense for what the player wants, and they're probably just point blank asking him, "Do you want to stay here? Yes or no? Yes, okay. Let's work on sign him." They're just picking off the list one by one. Because remember, if we go back to the expansion draft, basically he drafted all guys that only have, because he had to draft at least a certain amount that have a full year left on their contract. He couldn't just draft a bunch of players that were going into free agency and then he could just wipe them clean and start with whatever he wants. Right. He had to draft guys at least I think it was 30 out of the 50 or something to that effect. I don't remember the exact rules off the top of my head, but there was a certain percentage, and it was more than half, that had to have at least a year left in their contract. And basically that's what he did. He he drafted a whole bunch of players that had a year left in their contract. He only had a very few players that had more than a year on their contract. So that gives them the freedom to be able to make this roster, shape it. Keeps the roster pretty fluid anyway in the first few years, so they're not locking themselves into any one player long term. But now that they've established themselves as a pretty good team, these players are deciding now they want to stay. Right. They think Vegas is fun. They're winning. So, and of course, Derek Englund, he lives there. He's been living there in the off season for years.
Yeah.
So he was one of the few players that came out and was very excited when Vegas got awarded a team, and he pretty much all but said he wanted to play there. So even when before that expansion draft, so obviously he's not going to want to go anywhere, and probably you're going to see, given his age and his, with all due respect, his limited ability, they're just going to keep signing him to one-year contracts until he decides he's done. So you're going to see this signing every single year, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably so. I wouldn't be surprised.
But I'm I'm kind of surprised they haven't targeted James Neal yet, because he's been a major cog in their offensive machine. So I think you're going to see them, and of course, the article mentioned Perron as well. You're going to see those two players. If those players want to stay in Vegas, you're going to see them get signed here probably within the next month.
Right.
I'm sure they're going to stop all this stuff going into the playoffs. They may not even be allowed to sign players during the playoffs. I'm not sure how the collective bargaining rules are set up, but there may be a freeze on that stuff during the playoffs. But looks like we're going to be seeing the Vegas Golden Knights in the playoffs.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt. No doubt whatsoever in my mind.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see, A, who they get matched up with, and B, can the Vegas Golden Knights beat a team when they have to play them 7 games in a row? I see them as a team that's going to wear out a more talented. Say they end up against the Blackhawks in the first round.
Right.
That's going to be a team that the longer the series goes, the better chances that Vegas has to win the series. I think if it's a short series, it's going to go against them.
Right.
Whereas the longer they drag it out, the better. It's just the style that they play. They wear teams out.
Right.
With 60 minutes of intensity, and they just. And I just see them just scaling that to a full series instead of just one game.
Right.
So it'll be fun to watch for sure. It'll give us a reason to watch, because you know how the playoffs, the schedule usually goes is Eastern Conference one night, Western Conference the next. Eastern Conference. It'll give us a reason to sit down and watch some Western Conference.
Absolutely. Stay up and watch them. Put that same thing, though, against the Nashville Predators.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Hey,
that would be a fun series.
That's a different story entirely now.
Yeah.
You see, and the longer the series goes, I think the more it favors Nashville. I don't know. We'll see. There's going to be some tests there. The first round, hey, they may skate through it, but you get into the second round, they're going to be playing somebody.
What if Vegas goes all the way to the Stanley Cup final?
Yeah,
and even worse, what if they win?
Yeah, it would shock the whole sports world. It would just shock. I don't care if you're a football fan. Here's an expansion team winning the championship of the league they
with
play
throwaway players.
Yeah,
that's what they are. They're throwaway players. They're the players that the team that they came from didn't want.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can't say they didn't want them, but I guess that's kind of strong, because obviously the teams wanted those players. They just
couldn't keep them.
They decided that they weren't one of their best 8 players.
Right.
So Vegas essentially, I guess it's proven that you can win with just about anybody. It's just all about, chemistry and everything else. Right. There's a lot of intangibles that makes this incredibly difficult to predict. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch. It'll be a fun playoff year. All right. That's the only transaction I had, unless you saw any that came across.
No. That's the only one I saw as well.
All right.
As a matter of fact, I don't know any other.
Okay. Let's head on to injuries then. And let's talk about Pittsburgh's situation. I guess it's not really an injury, but we talked about it last week. Matt Murray just disappearing from the team and going to tend to a personal issue. Well, this week it came out what went on. Goaltender Matt Murray will be away from the Pittsburgh Penguins indefinitely following the death of his father, James Murray, on Tuesday. Murray returned home to Ontario. He missed the Penguins' past 2 games, but was at practice on Tuesday. He's 15-12-1 with a 2.93 goals against average and .903 save percentage in 31 games this season. I did not see exactly what happened to his father, but it sounds like it was definitely unexpected.
Right.
So our thoughts go out to, of course, the Murray family as well on that. Let's hope that Matt can get things in order and get back to Pittsburgh, of course, when he's ready to come.
Right.
But yeah, I just hadn't heard. I don't know if you saw anything about it.
Well, what mystifies me is he was at practice on Tuesday. This was after, I'm assuming, his father passed away. And why are they saying he's out indefinitely?
He's gone home to be with the family.
Okay.
But yeah, it looks like he was at practice on Tuesday, but then his father passed on Tuesday. So I don't know if that was. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not a lot of details coming out about this whole situation. So maybe in time we'll find out for sure if of course the family wants to divulge that information. But yeah, it sounds like for sure it was unexpected because I had seen other. Like people tweeted that as recently as a few months ago, his father was on a how a lot of the teams do the father son, where all the fathers come and go with the team on a road trip and basically be with the sons. He was part of that, so
yeah.
So yeah, it's just a tough situation for them, and hopefully Matt will be okay on the high side of things, and he'll get back to playing hockey pretty soon, because I'm sure that just playing hockey alone would be a bit of a release for him in that sense.
Right.
So all right, next one we have the Columbus Blue Jackets claim forward Jussi Jokinen off waivers on Wednesday, after putting forward Sonny Milano on injured reserve with a torn oblique muscle sustained against the Toronto Maple Leafs on January 8th. Milano, the number 16 pick in the 2014 NHL draft, will be out 4 to 6 weeks. He has 13 points in 35 games so far this season. Jokinen was waived by the Kings. He has 6 points in 32 games with the Kings and Edmonton Oilers. And, of course, Jussi Jokinen is known, and I don't know if he still is. I haven't seen him recently, but Jokinen is known around the league as being a bit of a shootout specialist.
Yeah.
A guy who scores more than his share of shootout goals, we'll put it that way. So starting with the Carolina Hurricanes, I think, or maybe even with the Edmonton Oilers. I'm not sure at what point he began to get that role, but a lot of teams would sign Jokinen just simply to have him on the roster for shootouts.
Right.
Because he was so good at it.
Right.
As at one point there, he was scoring shootout goals at better than a 50% clip. I don't know if he's still putting up numbers like that or not anymore. But either way, the injury to Milano though is one that the Columbus Jackets didn't need, given the fact that how they are kind of been struggling as of late. They haven't gone completely in the tank, but
no,
they're certainly not playing the way they were at the beginning of the season.
They're one of those teams. Take a step back, tie a game or get a point out of a game, and then lose a game, and then win, and then lose 2, and then win 2, and then lose. That's how they're playing.
Yeah, looking at the standings, they're 4-5-1 in their last 10. So
yep.
that is not something that they can afford to continue for too much longer. Right now, they're still sitting. I believe they're still sitting in a playoff spot.
Yes, they are. They are third in the East.
Yes, they're third in the Metro.
They're right, in the Metropolitan.
But they are in danger of falling out. They are only 2 points ahead of Pittsburgh, which is sitting 8th in the conference.
That's right.
and 5 points ahead of Philadelphia, which is sitting in 9th in the conference on the outside looking in.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, Columbus has got to get their situation resolved here fairly quickly. Otherwise, we're looking at Columbus not making the playoffs, and that could entirely happen.
Yep. Both of us picked them to make the playoffs.
Yep.
So,
but I think with the Metro Division, there are going to be some good teams that are going to miss the playoffs there, just like there is in the Central.
Right.
There's going to be some good teams that miss the playoffs.
Right.
Because they just got they were on the losing end of a dogfight in their own division.
Right. With Colorado coming on right now, and looks like they're making a push. But look at the Dallas Stars. I can see one of those teams falling out.
Yep.
Dallas is a good team.
Well,
on the outside,
there's two teams in Chicago and Minnesota that are good teams that
Yep.
are on the outside right now.
Right.
Looking
good
in.
point.
So if everyone agrees that Minnesota and Chicago are going to make the playoffs, then who do you take out? You've got to take two out. Colorado, Dallas, St. Louis, Winnipeg, and Nashville. Two of those are going to miss the playoffs if Chicago and Minnesota are going to make it. It's just crazy. This year.
It is. Yep.
It's just crazy. The NHL has always wanted to have the regular season games. Obviously, you're never going to have them mean as much as a playoff game, but you certainly don't want any throwaway games in the regular season. Well, I think they've definitely accomplished that goal.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
So, yeah. Anyway, so Columbus has got some more injury issues. All right, let's talk about Sebastian Aho. He's out indefinitely for the Carolina Hurricanes with a concussion and a lower body injury. The forward was injured in a 4-1 loss against the Calgary Flames at PNC Arena on Sunday when he was hit by Mark Giordano, defenseman, who was assessed a match penalty for an illegal check to the head. Selected by the Hurricanes in the second round of the NHL draft in 2015, Aho is the leader for Carolina in goals and points. The Hurricanes are on a 6-day break and play the Detroit Red Wings at Little Caesars Arena on Saturday. This loss, or losing Aho, is extremely huge for the Carolina Hurricanes because he's been the catalyst for their offense for the whole season, really.
Yep.
I mean, even on nights that he doesn't score, you know he's on the ice every shift. He's just so much better than everybody else on the Hurricanes team,
right?
Or at least he's playing better than everybody else. He's always in the middle of the play.
He definitely is electric. He's electric.
Yeah.
He has the when he shoots the puck, it's a beautiful thing to watch. He knows how to use the velocity of his stick. He's good at it's a smooth rhythm when he shoots it. He's just a phenomenal. I think he's a phenomenal player, and I agree with you. When he's on the ice, you know the Hurricanes are looking to get the puck to him, and that's a big injury. That's a big injury for him. So they need him back, and they need people stepping up.
Yep. Yeah, they definitely need him back. And because of the Hurricanes are on break, we haven't had any news concerning this injury come from them. But when they last put anything about it, talking about him being out indefinitely, the scary part is it says that he's probably not coming back anytime soon.
Right.
Which is something that they don't need.
Right.
As we mentioned a million times, I mean, they're in a dogfight for a playoff spot. So, yeah, it's a tough thing for the Hurricanes, and they've been relatively healthy this year. The Hurricanes have. This is really the first major injury that they've had. If you want to count the Lee Stempniak not playing until about a week ago all season as a major injury for them. In terms of offensive firepower anyway, this is the first major injury that Carolina has suffered this year that I can think of.
Right.
So we'll see.
Agree.
We'll see how they respond to it, for sure. All right, Edmonton Oilers. This one came down today. Edmonton Oilers center Ryan Nugent-Hopkins will miss 5 to 6 weeks with cracked ribs. Nugent-Hopkins, who was placed on injury reserve on Thursday, leads the Oilers with 16 goals and is third with 31 points in 46 games. He was injured late in the second period of Edmonton's most recent game, a 3-2 overtime win at Vegas on January 13th. That preceded a 6-day break. Yeah, he's not Connor McDavid, but Nugent-Hopkins is still one of the top handful of players that Edmonton has on their roster. So, yeah, we were talking about the Oilers. We've basically stuck a fork in them already this year.
Yep.
So him being hurt obviously is not going to help them if they want to make some sort of a comeback. But obviously it's a big injury for the Oilers to deal with. And it looks like the talk out of Edmonton that I saw is with Nugent-Hopkins being in the lineup, that has given Edmonton the ability to put Draisaitl and McDavid on the same line. And now it looks like they're probably going to have to take those two and put them on separate lines.
Yep.
Because Edmonton just simply doesn't have the depth at forward to have 4 good, strong lines.
Right. I see it as well, it's a big loss, of course, for the Edmonton Oilers, but I liken it back to and now Buffalo's in a totally different situation. They're not going to make the playoffs. And last night when the game opened up, they were talking to Jack forgetting his name right now, but you know who I'm talking about, Jack Eichel of the Buffalo Sabres, and said, chances are you're probably not going to make the playoffs. And he was resolved to, we're probably not going to make the playoffs. But we've got to try to play consistently each game. Well, I don't know that you'd see any announcers coming out at this moment in time and saying, you're probably not going to make the playoffs, and talking to a player of Edmonton that way. But you really could say the chances of them making the playoffs are becoming remote. They're probably not going to make the playoffs. So it's a big loss to them, but it's a team that's not going to make the playoffs. So, God, I don't know how to say it. I hope Ryan Nugent-Hopkins comes back this year and plays exceptionally well for the time remaining in the season. And, Edmonton should start trying to win each game that they're playing and just look at it as, hey, we'll do our best, because that's how Buffalo's looking at it.
Well, if we use our 95-point example that we talked about, Edmonton is currently sitting at 43 points. So they are 52 points away from that 95-point mark. They've played 45 games. So that means they only have, 37 left?
37 left. Yep.
37 left. To
get 52 points.
To get 52 points. And that might get them the wild card. The 8th place spot.
Yep.
Can they get 52 points in 37 games? If it was last year's team, I'd say yes.
Sure.
But this year's team hasn't shown any sign of being able to.
If they don't have any regulation, if they win every game in regulation, you know what I'm saying? let's put it this way: if the 52 points are made up from them all wins, they got to win 26 games out of 37.
26 games out of 37.
You got to be playing good hockey to do that. Exceptionally good hockey to do that.
Yep.
Okay, so let's take it back and say they have to have 24 wins or 22 wins and 4 overtime. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you could start to look at it that way. Well, they still got to be 22-11.
Right.
So, and four ties. So they're going to have to play very, very well to get there. And I don't know that's going to happen.
That's really, a lot of 7-3 and 8-2 10-game.
Yeah, that's right.
10-game swings. Yeah.
Yep.
That's tough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, equally tough in terms of tough losses is the last injury I have is Kevin Shattenkirk. That one came down today. That the New York Rangers have lost Kevin Shattenkirk indefinitely because of a meniscus tear in his left knee and will have surgery on Monday. Shattenkirk, who has played in all of 46 of the Rangers games, said at practice at Friday that he's been playing with knee pain since training camp and didn't make sense to continue without having the surgery. He said he's planning to rehab in time to be back with the Rangers before the end of the season. Their final regular season game is against the Flyers on April 7th. Shattenkirk, who signed a 4-year contract with the Rangers in July 1, has 23 points, 5 goals, and 18 assists. He has no goals and 8 assists in 30 games since November 6th, and has 1 point in 13 games December 19th. He played 17-17, did not have a point in New York's 4-3 win against the Sabres, Madison Square Garden on Thursday. All right. Yeah. So it looks like Shattenkirk's been hurt all along. He's just been trying to play through the pain, and obviously his recent numbers have shown that it's become more and more difficult because he really hasn't done a whole lot in terms of putting points on the board anyway. In recent couple weeks.
He has not. It has been noticeable as of late with his play. I think his time on ice has actually dropped too.
Because he was kind of on fire at the beginning of the season.
Absolutely.
And then he kind of cooled off. Yep.
Yeah. So it's noticeable. The fact that he is coming out now and saying he has an injury, as you and I talk a lot on this show, these guys play hurt. They really don't want the team personnel to know maybe sometimes so that they are not the guy who gets put down and goes through whatever surgery or rehab in the AHL or whatever, and somebody else gets pulled up and put on the team and takes
their job.
Place.
Yep.
So, but in the case of Kevin Shattenkirk, I don't think that would happen. But nonetheless, it's a tough loss. It's New York's top scorer on the blue line. What do? Well, they're going to put Brady Shea in his place for the most part. Whether he captains the power play or not to the extent that Kevin Shattenkirk did, that might be exactly what they do, but it remains to be seen. And I think Brady Shea can step in there pretty well. I think he can fill that role. They're also calling up D'Angelo from the Wolfpack, who they got from Arizona earlier in the year. So they have some guys, and D'Angelo has NHL experience. They can call up and put in his place to stop the bleeding. But in the case of Brady Shea, he's got a lot of experience in these last couple of years. His rookie year last year, he played very well. And I think it's a tough loss, but I think we can do well if Brady Shea plays well. If he plays well, steps into this role, sees it as an opportunity for him to step up and become a permanent fixture, a Rangers top 4 defenseman. which he might be right now, but can cement his future, I think we're in good shape. And I'm looking at this from a positive viewpoint. We're going to miss Kevin Shattenkirk,
Yep.
but we have pieces there. We're not. It's not like woe is me. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is a big loss for Edmonton. No way you can sit here and say they have guys who are going to step up and step into his shoes right away. But we have a guy I just met, in Brady Shea that can step up and come close. So
well, and that's the thing I want to ask is, Brady Shea, obviously he's young, he's only 23. Has he been able to? Because of the fact that you've got Shattenkirk there, you've got McDonough there, and you've got Stahl there. You've got some big names back on the blue line, which has been able to give the Rangers a way to not have to play Shea as much, being as young as he is. The guy's a first-round draft pick.
Yep. Yep.
Like 5 years ago or so? Brady
It's
Shea was a 5-year draft pick. Has he been given a legitimate shot to be a top pairing D yet for the Rangers? I don't think he has.
No.
And I think this might be his shot.
Yep.
To show what he can do.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is what, his second full year?
Take it a step. Is that a shaky thing to do? No. That's what I'm saying. He's played well enough. I got confidence in the guy. He could really, really turn this into something where, hey, this is my chance. And when Kevin Shattenkirk comes back to play, boy, we're going to even be better than we are right now. But I'm going to step in there. You know what I'm saying?
If Shea plays well. I mean, see, if you take the Bruins' perspective, last season they had Brandon Carlo, who played a lot of minutes, but that was out of necessity. Bruins didn't have a lot of depth on D. Not like the Rangers. This year, it's been Charlie McAvoy. He's been getting the bulk of it. Before that, it was Torrey Krug, who was playing a lot as a young player, out of necessity, because the Bruins in recent years just haven't had the depth at defense, which has forced them to advance these young players. And now it's paying off, because now all these guys have a lot of extra experience that they probably wouldn't have had on another team. Where the Rangers have had so much depth on D, it's kind of kept players like Shea down. And, with this Shattenkirk injury, they still got Stahl. They still got McDonough. Obviously, Stahl's not going to be your power play guy. He's more of a shutdown D now, but he still takes a huge bulk of the minutes away from some of the other players. And I think this will be Shea's chance to shine.
I agree.
And really show what he can do. So,
and
I think his success or failure will be a huge factor in how well the Rangers play overall as a team in the next couple of months, until Shattenkirk's ready to come back.
I agree.
And if he plays, like you said, if he plays well, and then Shattenkirk comes back, oh God, wow!
Here come the playoffs. That's
right.
So you never know. An opportunity like that. Now, we're not talking about Chris Kreider right now. That's a different story. But there's a couple injuries, and again, I've thrown out there on that injury. I see Rick Nash coming on. He was 4 goals in 2 games, points, and he's playing well. So if I'm a Rangers fan right now, I'm looking at the positive side of it, not the negative side of it. They need to play consistently. And I think they will. So hang in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some suspensions and fines. First and foremost, Anaheim Ducks forward Andrew Cogliano was suspended on Sunday for 2 games, which will end his consecutive games played streak at 830. Cogliano was disciplined for interference against the Kings forward Adrian Kempe. The incident occurred at 3:41 of the first period at Staples Center on Saturday. Cogliano received a 2-minute penalty for interference. Cogliano will not play against the Colorado Avalanche at Pepsi Center on Monday, ending the fourth longest consecutive games played streak in NHL history after Doug Jarvis, who has 964 games, Gary Unger, who had 914, and Steve Larmer with 884. He had not missed a game in 11 NHL seasons since his debut with the Edmonton Oilers against the San Jose Sharks on October 4th, 2007. The 30-year-old, who signed a 3-year contract with the Ducks on Friday, has 18 points in 44 games this season. So, with suspension aside, I took a look to see who our new Ironman leader is currently, and that is Keith Yandel, who's at 675, followed by Patrick Marleau, who's at 669, Phil Kessel at 654, and Carl Alsner at 582.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting.
Because the NHL, and I know you wanted to, and we may want to choose to do this right now. I know you wanted to talk about Andrew Cogliano as part of your pick of the week.
Yep.
And we may as well just go ahead and do it right now. But I'll throw my 2 cents in, and then you can say what you wanted to say about it.
Okay.
These Ironman streaks with the modern day NHL, with them suspending players game here, 2 games there for every little thing that happens on the ice.
Yeah.
These Ironman streaks, I think it just more solidifies Doug Jarvis's record, 964. I don't think we're ever going to see anyone approach that again. Because nowadays it doesn't take much to get a 1-game suspension.
It really doesn't. That was my point entirely. Is that, and I watched this tape quite a bit actually. I watched the replay of it. It was definitely interference. There's no question.
Oh yeah,
it was definitely interference, and I could see them throwing a fine at him. I could say, yeah. You know,
the puck was long gone.
Well, after, and in fact, the other player had received the puck and was, there's no question about it. It was penalty.
I don't know what the guy was thinking when he hit him.
I don't know why he did it.
He took like 3 or 4 strides after the puck was gone.
Right. But that being said, I don't think he should have been suspended for even 1 game. Now, I don't know whether I don't know the injury status of Adrian Kempe. His first name Adrian? I think that's right.
Yeah.
I don't know the injury status of him, and I don't know if he played the next game or didn't play for the rest of that game because I didn't watch it. But I don't think that I do not think that Andrew Cogliano deserved to be suspended for even 1 game. I could see giving him a fine. He had no history, no prior history of any kind of problem on the ice in regards to that. And I'm not sure why that happened. I don't know why the NHL Player Safety Board picked him out and said, you know what, it's his time. Because you have fans who are following, like myself, who are following this Ironman streak. And we're not talking about, Lou Gehrig or anybody like that in baseball. This is totally different. This is nowhere near the same as baseball. Not nearly as rough a sport on your body. These hockey players that get up to 800 games played without missing one, that is an incredible feat.
Yep.
And you're not going to see 11 seasons without missing a game. If you'll think about that, we're all hockey fans. That is unbelievable.
Yep.
That is a truly incredible feat. And he's playing now where the game is so fast. It's just, you're not going to see somebody catch these guys up at the top if the Player Safety Board is going to make decisions like that. I think that was the wrong thing to do. I, as a fan, really wanted to see Andrew Cogliano have his shot at getting up into 900 games and then see what happens, and that's not going to happen. I just thought it was a poor decision. And had it been something where Kempe was taken out of the game on a straight, even, and I hate to say things like this, but had he been hurt, to the extent where he missed a game, I don't know how to word this properly. I don't know his playing status right at this very second. I really don't.
Well, I don't think he got hurt initially on the play because he only got a minor penalty. If Kempe would have gotten hurt on the play, that would have elevated it to a major or a match, and Cogliano would have been thrown out of the game. He got a 2-minute minor, so now you're going to get suspended. Where on the ice it's a 2-minute penalty. Like I'm with you. I don't see where the consistency is here.
Yep.
Okay, you're gonna suspend Cogliano, but the next player on our in this particular part of the podcast we're going to talk about is Dustin Brown, who got a fine for what he did, and I saw both plays, and I think what Brown and Cogliano both did, to me was, both required some sort of action by the NHL. I agree that.
Right.
But why a Brown gets a fine where Cogliano gets a suspension, I don't understand. I don't get why one is that much more severe than the other. To me, they look both equally dangerous. Both plays should have either been both suspended or either been both fined, but why one get a fine and one get a suspension, I don't get it. I don't.
That's an excellent point, Wayne.
I just don't see the consistency. So
I agree.
And I'm not saying that the league is biased in any way towards one team or another. That's not what I'm getting at. I just don't. I'd like it to be okay. You see the play, okay, you know that's going to be a 2-gamer, or that's going to be a 1-gamer, or that's going to be a fine. When you see certain plays, and I'm sure it has something to do with headshots. They're penalizing those more severe to try to get that out of the game. And I think where and probably the difference is, and I could be wrong about it, but Cogliano was a shot to the head, where Dustin Brown was just a checking from behind where he, face planted him into the boards. That's probably why Cogliano's gets suspended and Brown's doesn't. But, I don't know for sure that that's the case.
All right.
So, I'm looking for, the consistency. I'm looking for the correlation between, what goes on and what happens after the fact.
And I agree. And don't forget, no prior history in 11 seasons, no prior history of any violence, any reason to pull the guy and suspend him previously.
So maybe in the future, what they do in a case like this to protect these Iron Man streaks is they adjust the system, whereas they start with a fine and make it a hefty one.
Right.
For shots to the head. Okay, now you're losing, 5% of your salary or 2%, whatever they decide.
Right.
And and make it a percentage so that because if you were to make it a flat rate, well, if you were to fine Andrew Cogliano $50,000, make it something that hurts.
Right.
$50,000 for a first offense on a shot to the head. Well, $50,000 to Andrew Cogliano is different than $50,000 to Connor McDavid.
Right.
So you really would need to make it a percentage of the salary.
Right.
That way it hits the players, about equal to what their value is.
Right.
And maybe if you hit them that way first and then go on to the games, then if you have a player where they've got this long streak going, that you're not destroying a streak based on a bang bang split decision kind of play that just happens in the heat of a moment,
right?
Which ruins a 11-year streak.
Yeah, and listen, it was poor judgment on Cogliano's part. It was stupid.
He had time to avoid it.
I think in his mind he knew that puck was. I don't think there's any doubt that was. Yeah, there was some reckless disregard for things. But I don't think that raised itself to the level to suspend a guy for 2 games and take him out of any shot of him. He's not, he'll never play another 11 seasons and get up to that point. So the streak is over, and there's no chance of it. But I don't know. It's the league's decision that I find perplexing, and I don't understand the consistency part of it, Wayne. I think that's what you're hitting on is really the crux of the matter.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so we'll quickly just give you the details of Dustin Brown's suspension, since we did address that as well. LA Kings forward Dustin Brown got fined $10,000, the maximum allowable under the collective bargaining agreement via Section 18.7D for cross-checking Pittsburgh Penguins defenseman Justin Schultz during NHL game number 704 in LA on Thursday, January 18th. The incident occurred at 6:36 of the third period. Brown was assessed a major penalty and a game misconduct for boarding. So basically what happened there, I don't know if you saw the play, but Schultz was going in and kind of fell to his knees, and he's sliding across the ice on his knees up against the boards trying to play the puck when Dustin Brown comes up behind him and just cross-checks him in the back and sends him straight into the boards, face first, while he's on his knees. So that hit was obviously unnecessary, and Schultz was down for a few minutes after that, but I don't think he will miss any time, though, as a result of it. So, excuse me. So, yeah, that ultimately was the other suspension of the week. All right, and one other interesting story that I came across. Of course, we talked about Team Canada last week and Team USA the week before in terms of Olympic rosters. Well, Sweden this past week released theirs. And one player that I'm going to be watching that week is a kid by the name of Rasmus Dahlin.
Yeah.
He has not yet been drafted. He'll be drafted this June, and he's projected to go number 1 overall. He's a defenseman for Team Sweden, but he will be on the Olympic roster. So for those of you who are going to watch some Olympic hockey, that is a player that you're going to want to watch, because somebody or some team, I should say, who's going to miss the playoffs is going to end up with this kid. And they're saying that he's going to be a good one.
Right.
So, and, good defensemen are hard to come by. So this kid could be a pretty good, he's projected to be a top pairing D for sure.
I agree.
So, and I really didn't see much of the rest of the roster. It's safe to say that it's pretty much made of the same type of players that are playing for Canada and Team USA. Although with Sweden, it's mostly players that are made up of KHL, Swedish Elite League players. That's pretty much where all their players are coming from. So it'll be another team to watch in February.
Absolutely. Yeah, and they actually went on about Rasmus Dahlin last night.
Yep.
So I got to hear about him actually for the first time. So I did not watch him. I didn't pay any attention really to him during the World Juniors. So
and he was a big part of their team.
Yeah.
And they ended up with the silver medal. So
yep. So it'll be interesting to watch. It will be. And I don't know, the way it's looking right now, it's Arizona get the first pick. You never know with the lottery.
Yeah. Well, now with the lottery, the way it's set up, anybody can end up with because it used to be when they first came up with the lottery system, if you were the lottery winner, you got to move up 4 spots.
Right.
So if you were in that bottom 4, you could move up to the number 1. But if you were outside that, if you were the 5th worst team in the NHL, actually I should say the 6th worst team in the NHL, and you won the lottery, the best you could do is 2nd. Well, now you can be, 14 teams don't make the playoffs? No, 15 now. This year is 31 teams. So 15 teams are going to be outside the playoffs. You can be the 15th worst team, or basically the best team outside the playoffs. If you win the lottery, you win the number 1 pick.
Right.
Now the chances are better. The worse your team is, the more so-called ping pong balls go into the kettle for the worst teams. But everybody has a chance of winning it, at least some sort of chance. And now the lottery system is if you win it, and they pick 3 now. So if you're one of the 3 balls that they pick, that's picks 1, 2, and 3. So
Right.
if you finish dead last in the NHL, which Buffalo or Arizona likely will, one of those 2 will, if they don't end up being one of the 3 ping pong balls, they're going to pick 4th.
Right.
So
Right.
So yeah, it makes it that much more difficult to tank. I certainly wouldn't want to tank with rules like that, because usually if you're outside the top 3 in the draft, you're missing out on a pretty good player. It'll prevent teams like Chicago and Pittsburgh from tanking year after year after year to stock up on real good players.
Right.
And then put together a dynasty later on. So hopefully that kind of activity will end. Not that I'm saying that they were doing that, or actually Edmonton was doing similar to that too. How many years did they end up with the number 1 overall pick?
Right.
Under the old rules. But it's much more difficult now. Okay, let's move on to honors and milestones. Calgary Flames left wing Johnny Gaudreau, Calgary Flames goaltender Mike Smith, and Pittsburgh Penguins right wing Phil Kessel have been named the NHL's 3 stars for the week ending January 14th. Gaudreau led the NHL with 8 points in 4 games to propel the Flames to a perfect week, helping the team extend its overall winning streak to 8 games. Smith stopped 104 out of 108 shots against, going 3-0 with a 1.32 goals against average and .963. Also helping the Flames to their great week. And then Phil Kessel registered a 5-point week in 2 games, scoring the winning goal in each contest to lift the Penguins to the first wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference. So that's Phil Kessel, Mr. Not an All-Star Phil Kessel, right?
That's right.
I don't think he made the All-Star team, but congrats to those guys. And, of course, having 2 Flames in the top in the 3 stars of the week tells you how good of a week that team had.
Yep. Playing very well.
Yep. And the other milestone or honor this week, Eric Lindros, I don't know if you saw this, who spent 8 of his 14 seasons with the Flyers, became the 6th player to have his jersey number retired by the Flyers on Thursday. Lindros, who was the 94-95 Hart Memorial Trophy winner, was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2016. Though he spent time with the Rangers, Maple Leafs, and Stars, it was his 659 points in 486 games with the Flyers for which he'll be remembered. A banner with Lindros' name and number was raised to the rafters at Wells Fargo Center last night. There it will join Bernie Parent, Mark Howe, Barry Ashby, Bill Barber, and Bobby Clark. And his career numbers, 760 games played, 372 goals, 493 assists, 865 points, to go along with 1,398 penalty minutes. And he will be best remembered by me as the top player in my draft year.
Oh.
If I were an NHL quality player and I were to have been drafted, he would have been the top. He was the first overall pick in the 1991 draft, and that was the year that I was eligible to be drafted. You know, every kid remembers their own draft year, right?
Right. That's right. Well, that's pretty cool.
And he was a scary good player coming out of that too. I remember the talk about him. He was
an exceptional player.
He was, he had that rare ability of having both size and skill that pretty much up to that point only Mario Lemieux was known to have, and maybe Yager if you consider him a big player.
Mm-hmm.
Yager was tall, but he wasn't necessarily big and strong. Well, Eric Lindros was not only, tall, but he was strong and
Exceptionally strong.
and had exceptional hands.
Yep,
Total package player.
he was.
And to the point where he had that big controversy. I don't know if you remember that back at the beginning of his tenure. He gets drafted. He actually went first overall to Quebec, to the Nordiques.
Yeah.
But then refused to go there. He didn't want to go there because up to that point, Quebec was a very bad team.
Oh yeah.
Like they only had, I can't remember exactly what their record was, but they were only 10, 12 wins out of the whole season. He didn't want to go there.
Right.
He wanted to win. So, and he thought of Quebec as being a team that was never going to put it together. So shortly after he gets drafted in Quebec, the Nordiques end up putting a package together to send him to the Flyers. Now there was also, wasn't there a reported trade too that apparently that the Quebec had traded him to two different teams at the same time?
Oh God.
I think the Rangers were the other team that were supposed, like, they apparently, the story comes out that there was a trade, and I'm trying to remember the details, that there was a trade in place for Eric Lindros to go to the Rangers with a package of players going back to Quebec. But then at the last second, the Flyers came through with a better offer. And before that one was officially finalized at the league office with the Rangers, they went ahead and made the trade with the Flyers instead, because the Flyers got in return a young kid named Peter Forsberg.
Yeah.
Which was a better player than the Rangers would have been able to give him at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So Eric Lindros was this close to going to the Rangers, but didn't. Ended up going to Philadelphia instead.
Yep.
And
good memory.
And then, of course, the Legion of Doom line happened with Vermont boy John LeClaire and Michael Renberg. That line, oh man, that was a tough line to play against.
Oh,
Philadelphia had some good teams during those years.
They did. But
they never really put it together to win a Stanley Cup. But yeah, great player, Eric Lindros. And he's just under a month older than I am.
That was almost my pick of the week.
Oh, was it?
It was almost my pick of the week. But I wound up talking about Andrew Cogliano because I figured, well, we'll talk about this in the milestone segment. So
yep,
almost picked that.
Yep. All right. Well, we're on to the power ranking.
The power rankings. That's right. It's finally come around. It's my week again.
Yep.
And I don't know what you're going to think about these, Wayne. You might not have any beef with it at all, but I made some serious moves in here.
Yeah, you did.
Comparatively speaking to weeks previously. So I'm going to start out at number 17, our honorable mention, and there's one right there. I moved the Los Angeles Kings all the way out to number 17. They were number 8 last week.
Yep.
But they lost 5 in a row.
Yep.
And technically, right now, they're on the outside looking in. Had they beat the Penguins last night, they'd still be in my top 16. But Pittsburgh handed it to them last night, so they are now number 17. And right above them, number 16, the Pittsburgh Penguins. I put Pittsburgh behind the Rangers. I put the New York Rangers at 15, even though they beat us on Sunday. And the only reason for that is the fact that we are right now ahead of them. We have a game in hand, if not 2 games in hand. I'm not sure. I'm not sitting here looking at the numbers right now, but that's why we're ahead of Pittsburgh. So number 14, the San Jose Sharks. Number 13, a team that is 7-2-1 in their last 10, Calgary Flames.
Yep.
Number 12, the Colorado Avalanche, who are 9-1 in their last 10.
Yep.
Won 8 in a row. Eight wins in a row. Hottest team, I would say the hottest team in the NHL right now.
Pretty close.
Yep. Number 11, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Sputtering right now.
Yeah, they're inconsistent at best.
Yep. Number 10, another sputtering team, the Columbus Blue Jackets. We talked about them earlier. Number 9, the Dallas Stars. Number 8, the New Jersey Devils. They continue to stay in the top 10, although they're shaky. They're not Columbus shaky, but they're not. Again, I don't see the Devils lasting. Maybe they will. Number 7, the St. Louis Blues. Number 6, the Winnipeg Jets. Number 5, the Nashville Predators. Number 4, the Washington Capitals, and I moved your Boston Bruins all the way up to number 3 with their play. And, yeah, points in the last 15, 14 in the last 15, is that right?
15 in a row.
15 in a row now.
Yep.
Incredible. Number 2, a team that defies logic, the Vegas Golden Knights. And I put at number 1, even though they lost, I put the Tampa Bay Lightning at number 1. Although that may change next week. I don't know whether Tampa Bay is going to stay there, but I kept them at a shaky number 1 right now in the NHL. And we'll see what happens this week.
Yeah, and I probably would have put Vegas at number 1 just simply due to the result of last night's game, where Vegas beating Tampa Bay in a head-to-head matchup. And they would definitely, and that would be, it's kind of a 1-1A right now. But if Vegas wins tonight and takes over that top spot in the point standings, I would definitely put Vegas as the clear number 1 if Vegas wins that game tonight. So should be fun. So Vegas is on that. That I don't know if the Western Conference teams talk about. You know how we talk about in the East the California road trip or the Western Alberta road trip. Where they play all the teams. In a row, boom, boom, boom. It seems like every team has to go out west to do the California road trip. L.A., Anaheim, San Jose. I wonder if they talk about the Southeast road trip out west, because that's what Vegas is on now. They did Nashville a couple nights ago, and then they're doing Florida tonight, and then actually no, the Nashville game I think was last night, and then Florida tonight, and then Carolina. So do they talk about the Nashville? Florida, Carolina, Southeast road trip.
The Southeast swing.
Or Tampa, Florida, Carolina, Nashville is the Southeast swing.
Yeah.
So anyway, just to know. But and just to lead to your number 3 seeding of the Boston Bruins, if you look at the standings, the Bruins now have, and I know it's just one column, but they have fewer regulation losses than any other team in the league. They stand alone with 10 losses. Everybody else has at least 11.
Very good. Very good. You could make a case that Boston could be number 2. But I just the only reason I didn't put them there is because they're of the number of points ahead. Tampa Bay
there's still a gap between Boston and Tampa Bay and Vegas. So no, I wouldn't put the Bruins any higher than 3rd myself. At least not yet.
That's right.
They keep winning, they're going to get there. Or they keep getting if they keep getting points in every game they play, they're going to get there. For sure. All right. Yeah. I don't other than that, I don't disagree really with anything in that top power ranking. You made a pretty fair case in every point. So,
hey, we've been talking Calgary from the very first of the season. They're not letting us down. Nope. Johnny Gaudreau is playing out of his mind. He's having a great year.
Yeah, and they have a nice defense core too.
Yep.
And Mike Smith is having a good year back in net. So
yep.
That's a good team they put together there in Calgary. It's good to see that they're finally playing like it.
Yep.
All right, let's look ahead to the week upcoming. Because we only have, as of tonight, only 7 games left or 7 nights left of hockey before the All-Star break.
That's right.
Thursday, the 25th, upcoming, that's, essentially 6 nights from today, is the last night before the All-Star break. So, and everybody's whining, speaking of the All-Star break, whining and complaining about why this player on their favorite team didn't make the All-Star game and why this player. Bruins fans are complaining why Tuukka is not there and why Bergeron is not there. You know what I say? Good.
Yeah.
Good. Give
Yeah.
those guys a break. They're going to
Give them
need
a rest.
They're going to need the rest going into the playoffs. I would gladly sacrifice a Stanley Cup or sacrifice All-Star appearances in order to get that much closer to the Stanley Cup. Right.
I agree with you.
I would give that up in a heartbeat, and I know the players would too. So Bergeron's been there almost every year for the last who knows how many years. Let's give him a break this time. Send Marchand. Yep. Marchand can go. And quite honestly, nowadays, with 31 teams going to the All-Star game, or 31 teams in the league, and only 44 players go to the All-Star game, not many teams are getting more than one these days.
Right.
You know, when it was 21 teams in the league, every team was sending 2 or 3 players. But now, 31 teams in the league and only 44 make it. Yeah, there's most teams are only sending one now, which I'm fine with. Give these players a break. They play a lot of hockey. So, all right, with that, let's look ahead. The Bruins have a relatively light schedule. Again, it seems like Boston's always got a light schedule every week.
Yeah.
Which is going to come back to bite them because the month of March and April is crazy busy. They have lots of back-to-back games, and they never have more than a single day off the entire month of March and all of April, at least leading up to the end of the regular season in April. So the Bruins are going to have a very busy schedule those 2 months. So what little bit of rest they're getting now, they should enjoy it. But anyway, 3 games. Between now and the next time we podcast, we've got Montreal again for the 3rd time in 8 days on Saturday night. And then they go back home and play the Devils on the 23rd. So that's after a 3-day rest. And then they go to Ottawa on the 25th and play them there. So, and I think that's the last game of the season against Ottawa. Although, maybe not. I'm not sure. So, yeah, Bruins, pretty light schedule. Definitely 2 games they should win and 1 game against the Devils that they could easily win if they continue to play as well as they have. Carolina, on the other hand, is coming out of their break. They've been on break since the 15th. Today is officially the last day of their break. Their first game is tomorrow night against Detroit, and that's at Detroit. Then they come back home and play Vegas the next night. And then 2 days later, they go out to Pittsburgh and play them. And then they go on the road to Montreal and play them on the 25th. So basically, coming out of that break, they've got 2 in a row and 3 games in 4 nights and 4 games in 6 nights coming out of that break. So that's a pretty busy schedule for Carolina.
Very busy.
And I'll be surprised if they get points against Vegas because how Vegas is playing so well. Although they have been shown that they are somewhat beatable on the road. They should beat Detroit. Pittsburgh is kind of a 50-50 for me, and then they should beat Montreal. But Carolina has shown that you don't know what you're going to get until the game is well underway with them. What team shows up?
That's true. And we went up there to Detroit, had the lead for most, if not of the game. They came back, tied the game, and won it in the shootout.
Yep.
So you never know. Detroit plays good in that Little Caesars Arena. They may come away with the win there. You never know.
But it's safe to say Carolina needs to find a way to get 5 points out of these 4 games.
Yeah, I agree. Yep.
Minimum.
In fact, if we come here next week, Wayne, and they only got 2 points out of it there, that's
we're going to stick a fork in them.
You think so? I don't know if I don't know if I'll go that far, but boy, going to the All-Star break, we can say that Carolina's not looking good.
If they only get 2 points in 4 games, I'll be ready to stick a fork in them.
Yeah.
Especially with some of the teams on the. I mean, Montreal and Detroit; those are must-wins. Carolina's a better team than both of those teams.
I agree.
So, all right, and the Rangers have a busy week.
Have a very busy week. We're going up against the vaunted Colorado Avalanche. 8-game winning streak tomorrow in Colorado. And I don't know, Wayne. I don't know. 8 in a row is a lot of wins in a row. So we'll see.
It's got to end sometime.
It's got to end sometime. They're playing well, and we'll see. I know we have a lot of injuries, a lot of players, particularly Mark Stahl, Kevin Hayes. Of course, now we know about Kevin Shattenkirk, and Chris Kreider are all out tomorrow. So we'll see. There's players stepping up. Quite a few guys from the Hartford Wolfpack up and playing for the Rangers as we speak. So we'll see what happens. We'll see. The very next night, Sunday night, they play in Los Angeles against the Kings at 10:30 at night.
Oh, that's a rough one.
I don't know whether I'm going to be able to stay up.
A game in Denver, and then the next night in L.A.
In L.A.
Ugh.
So those are 2 tough ones.
That's a fairly long flight, isn't it? Denver to L.A.?
I don't know. You got me on that one. It's definitely not, I'm sure it's over an hour. I don't know whether it might be 2 hours, but it's just guessing.
Yeah, I would think anything over 2 hours. I don't. I've never flown out west, so I don't know the flight times between those cities, but it just seems to be in a long flight.
But that's what they've got on their ticket right now. Stranger things have happened. They win both those games, boy. I'm going to be jumping up and down for joy.
Yeah.
Then on the next Tuesday, the 23rd, they're still in Los Angeles, but they're taking on the Ducks at the Honda Center out there. So that one, I really don't know. Of any of those 3 California teams, maybe they can get a win against Anaheim. I don't know. But to close it out on next Thursday, the 25th, they play against San Jose, the San Jose Sharks. So, and then they're in their All-Star break. So those are 4 tough games. Yeah. And if they win 2 of those games, I'm happy as I can be. I'll take that any day of the week. Going into the playoffs, if they come out with 4 points out of those 4 games, I'm happy. Yeah,
that's a tough road trip. Boston was fairly successful with it this year, but that's a tough one.
So we'll see how things go next. If we're on air next Thursday night, of course, it'll be talking before the San Jose game. If we're on air next Friday night, we'll have the results on those 4 games.
Yep. Well, good. All right, and then of course, it's going to be a much busier week on the ice than it has been the last couple weeks because as of tonight, once we get through tonight, all the bye weeks are done for the 31 NHL teams. So everybody's back on the ice. So we're going to start seeing, I think tomorrow night we have a 13-game night.
Yeah.
So 26 out of the 31 teams have games tomorrow night. So that should be, it's going to be fun to see. Here we go. We're heading into the last week before the All-Star game. So everybody's going to be pushing to get as many points as they can going into that break. Because after that break is the stretch run.
That's right.
That's when everything gets crazy busy and everyone starts really fighting for those last few playoff points.
Well, that's right.
So
that's right.
All right. Let's move on to the minor league minute. And you have one about a Hartford Wolfpack player. And I have one that talks about an interesting situation we had thanks to a snowstorm.
Yeah.
So which
That
one
put
do we
us
want? Which one do we want to talk about?
Well, let me get mine out of the way because I saw this article with what that you have, and it's interesting, and I think it's better than mine. So
All right.
mine specifically appeals to Rangers fans because they're going to know this player better than unless you're an avid hockey fan, Wayne, like you are. You're not gonna know a lot about Boo Nieves. But I pulled an article out of the Hartford Courant, the January 18th by John Altavia. It's an article entitled "Back in Hartford, Boo Nieves is thankful for his time with the Rangers." And they pulled him. He's been up and down for 2 years now. His rookie season in the NHL was last year. He was called up for one game, but he's a guy that is high on the list for the Rangers as making the team one day, and maybe he will. You just don't know in the future too about Ranger draft picks. Anyways, Boo Nieves came up this year and got a long stint to play with the Rangers, and so I wanted to read this article. After being recalled by the Rangers October 24th. Boo Nieves had no idea how long he'd stay in the NHL. After all, last season, the Rangers summoned him for just one game in November against Vancouver before returning him to the Wolfpack, their AHL affiliate. 3, New York's second-round pick in 2012, unpacked in his furnished apartment catty corner to Madison Square Garden, determined to make a strong impression. Honestly, when I was recalled, I tried not to think that far ahead, Nieves said Wednesday. My thoughts were entirely on wanting to make a good impression as quickly as I could. So far, the first couple of weeks, I made sure I was the hardest working guy in practice and in games. I wanted the Rangers to know how much I wanted to be there and not just on a vacation. In his first game against Arizona, he recorded 3 assists, and during his 28 games, he scored 1 goal with 8 assists. Despite averaging just over 10 minutes of ice time, his first NHL goal came December 5th in Pittsburgh. I'm not going to lie, Nieves said. On that bus ride to the arena that night, I was telling someone that I really wanted to score. Not because I wanted to pad my stats, but because I wanted to show them I could play defense, penalty kill, and shoot the puck. As every game passes and you don't score, you start thinking how much you wish you could find one. Then early in the first period, Matt Zuccarello came around the net. People had been encouraging me to just shoot the puck. Matt's got the puck out front to me. I took a hard wrist shot, and it kind of slipped through a couple of bodies. I guess it was meant to be that way. It floated around everyone. It found the back of the net, and I felt like the weight of the world was off my shoulders for a hot second there. Ultimately, Nieves was returned to Hartford on Monday when the Rangers recalled veteran forward Peter back, Nieves said. Back to the basics, which is never a bad thing. Nieves had only 23 shots on net and hadn't scored in his last 15 games. But at one point in early December, after he had played his first 131 minutes this season, he was the only player in the NHL who had played at least 10 games and hadn't been on the ice for a goal against. He's a big body, real strong one-on-one, and a real solid skater, Coach Alain Vigneault said of Nieves earlier this season. There's no doubt Boo is improving with every game. Every minute he plays, he gets more experience, and he's going to get better. Nieves' stay in New York was complicated by a severe case of food poisoning 3 games after his season debut and an injured hip suffered in Detroit. One of the highlights of his stay in New York was assisting fellow rookie Vinny Lettieri, who actually now has a starting role with the Rangers, was Hartford's leading scorer on his first NHL goal in his first NHL game on December 29th in Detroit. Eventually, the Rangers decided Nieves was still in need of some refinement, particularly when playing without the puck, when his positioning and aggressiveness seemed to sag. Maybe I started to think too offensively, Nieves said. I wasn't brought up necessarily to score a goal every night, but I wanted to show that I could produce. So it's back to Hartford for one of the Rangers' top prospects, but this time with a real taste of what it's like to play in the NHL. It was a dream come true being out there for warm-ups and taking a glance around the Garden. It's so incredible and electric, Nieves said. It's a cool feeling to know those people there are there to see you and your teammates and cheering you on, that all of New York City is behind you and anxious to see you win. They are such passionate sports fans, and honestly, it was just awesome. So my hat's off to Boo Nieves. I hope he comes back up again and is able to make a bigger offensive presence. The Rangers definitely.
Yeah, it's just a. Oh. Yeah, we lost Steve. Hang on. Well, there.
I don't know how much of that got cut off, if any.
It just crashed just a second ago on me. It's been weird tonight. It's been getting a lot of connection issues tonight. I don't know if everybody is staying at home and watching Netflix or what. All right, let me get it recording again. All right. For some reason, Skype just stopped working on me, so Steve dropped there. But yeah, we did catch the end of the article there. So yeah, it's just a kind of a day in the life of a minor leaguer there. In that
yes,
case.
It was,
because that's just one of hundreds and hundreds of stories of players that are just trying to make their way in the world of hockey. And anytime you see stories like that, you're always pulling for those guys to try to get up to the big time and stick there.
and stay there. Absolutely. Yep.
So good. Yeah, we have been having a few Skype issues. There's been a few times where Steve has kind of gone, and Steve, you'll hear it when you listen to the final podcast, that I don't know what it is. Well, we had a snowstorm this past week here in the Carolinas, so not a lot of people going out and about at night right now because everybody's freaking out about all the water that's on the roads refreezing. So everybody this week has been even after it snowed, has been in a rush to get their essentials, get home and stay there, and they don't leave their house until the next day when the sun comes up and melts all the ice that has frozen onto the roads. So with that, I think a lot of Netflix is going on, which means the internet is probably getting maxed out around here. That's my only explanation as to why we've been having some connection issues tonight.
But, and that's a good one. That might exactly be what it is.
Yep. So anyway, yeah. So good story there. But mine is also related to this snowstorm that we had. Of course, on Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, well, depending on where you were in the state, some places in the state, it didn't start until Wednesday morning. But I believe in Charlotte it started late Tuesday night. But we had snow. And when we have snow in North Carolina, the entire state shuts down. And, of course, Northerners like to make fun of it, myself included. But the reality is this state only gets one or two snowstorms a year that where it snows enough to affect driving conditions. And because of that, the state is not prepared in terms of equipment to handle accumulating snow on the roads. They just don't, we don't have the fleet of plows and sand trucks and sand and salt and all that stuff that they have up north. It simply doesn't exist down here because for the most part, you don't need it. So when it does snow, they basically shut everything down and wait until the snow melts, essentially, before things and things don't truly get back to normal until all the snow is melted. Because the big thing that they fear, even after it snows, is it snows, and then during the day it melts, water's running across the roads, and then at night it gets cold again, it refreezes, and then you have black ice, which is and because we don't have the equipment and the salt and everything, they can't treat the roads for every spot of black ice around the state. Because I was watching the press conferences with the governor earlier this week, and he made a kind of a fun fact about North Carolina, that in terms of lineal miles, total mileage of all the roads in North Carolina is second only to Texas in number of miles of roads for a state. So we have a network of roads that is enormous. We've got a very small fleet of plow trucks, and that combination makes it so that when it does snow, it's a disaster. So with that in mind, Charlotte Checkers, I saw an article. It was posted on NHL.com. There's no author there. Somebody wrote it, obviously, but the author wasn't reported. But the Charlotte Checkers weren't going to let a little snow rain on their parade after a winter storm dumped 6 inches of snow on Charlotte, North Carolina. I don't know how much you got, Steve, but we got 11 here at my house.
Yeah, I didn't go out and measure it, but I know it was over. It was like 8 to 10 inches.
Yeah.
We got more than the Greensboro area.
Yeah. Yeah, it seemed to be the bulk of the snow was between essentially somewhere around Burlington to about Durham was where the biggest snowfall was. And a little bit north of where we are got even more than us. There were some that reported 12 or 13, but we were close to the max at my house at 11. But anyway, in Charlotte, they got 6. So the Checkers of the American Hockey League decided to close the game to fans rather than reschedule their game against the Bridgeport Sound Tigers on Wednesday. And they made the best of the situation by tweeting through it. Now, the reason they did that is Bridgeport was already in town. They had played the night before a game. So they would have had to, if they were going to reschedule the game, Bridgeport wasn't scheduled to come back to Charlotte the rest of the season. So Bridgeport would have had to make another trip down here, which for an NHL team's no big deal. Everybody makes millions of dollars there. But minor league hockey, a flight for an entire team is expensive, especially for only one game. So they figured while the Bridgeport Sound Tigers are in town, and instead of making them come back down here again at some other point in the season, which is a huge expense to a minor league team, they decided to go ahead and play the game anyway. But they didn't want fans coming to the game because of how dangerous the roads were, so they closed the game to the public, and they played in front of 0 fans. So only a few essential team employees came to work, so they were doing any and all jobs that needed to be done. And there were various tweets that were going on throughout the game. So a couple of the tweets from the Checkers. We're short-staffed for tonight's #behind closed doors 2 game, so we had to get creative. And then the next tweet. Ticket sales staff are now the checkmates. The checkmates are like the cheerleaders. It's pretty much all female cheerleaders that go out and do dances and stuff between periods, and of course they shovel the during the commercial breaks. They shovel the rink, kind of like what they do in the NHL. Okay, yep. Well the checkmates were now ticket sales staff. So the checkmates obviously didn't go to the game. The season ticket staff are now the checkmates, okay? Our finance guy is now our PA announcer. Our corporate sales guy is running the video board. Our merchandise manager is running a camera.
Yeah.
And finally, our chief operating officer is now the DJ. Things are weird. And then it said hashtag behind closed doors too. And of course that it came with accompanying pictures on everything. So the mascot Chubby was not one of the essential employees, so they came up with a pretty good substitute. And they used a computer generated huge bear that they superimposed over the online, because they online stream the game for those who have like the NHL. They have a similar package that what the NHL has for the American Hockey League, so you can watch the game online. But they superimposed a computer generated dancing bear on top of it. And the thing was huge. He was the space from the ice to the scoreboard. That bear was literally take up half that distance. So he's probably 15 foot tall, dancing computerized bear. So, and then the tweet goes out saying Chubby couldn't make it, but I think we found a temporary replacement. And then the article goes on. Until that is, they dusted off Chubby's costume and put it on the team's corporate servicing specialist. And then it said, Chubby is here. Just kidding. It's our corporate servicing specialist. She's trying. And then, of course, when it was time for player rituals, this one lacked a little enthusiasm. But kudos to goalie Jeremy Smith for staying in the spirit of things. And then they show a video of the players coming out. The players come out of their dressing room, and they go through like a lounge area where the fans can watch them walk by. If you look at it, there's a bunch of tables and chairs on both sides of the hallway that the Checkers come out of their locker room and head towards the ice. Well, Jeremy Smith, the goalie, comes out, and he's like fake high-fiving the fans as he's walking by. He's like putting his hands out like he's high-fiving, but he's high-fiving nobody. And then it said, "Come puck drop, the crowd went wild." And then in parentheses, the crowd did not go wild. Intermission games didn't really go as well as they have their normal 6,000 fans in attendance. And then they tweeted out during the intermission, "Would anybody like to play an intermission game?" Hashtag awkward silence.
I guess nobody bought poutine in Charlotte that night.
Yeah, nobody. That's right. Nobody bought. They do sell poutine there, so. So, and of course, the best way to hype up a non-existent crowd, Cotton Eye Joe, hands down. And they were playing that between one of the whistles. And then it shows they even tried the kiss cam, but sadly it lacked the smooches we expect to warm our hearts. And of course, they show the kiss cam just showing a bunch of empty seats around the arena. In the end, though, the Checkers ended up winning the game 4-3, and everyone stayed safe in the process. This was the second time the Checkers played in an empty arena because of bad weather. They did the same back on January 22nd, 2016, but if they were ever have to do it again, we know there will be no shortage of fun. So, essentially, it must have been strange to play a game in front of nobody. But, you know, those games...
They say, man, it takes an act of God to stop. It has to be just a horrible blizzard to stop a hockey game.
Yep. Well, and in the case of minor leagues where they were already there, the Bridgeport team, they had already played a night before, you know, it actually made more sense for them to just go ahead and play the game than to... Because, you know, the teams were there... The officials were there because they used the same officials for the 2 consecutive nights. You might as well just go ahead and just get the game played, and just for the safety of the fans, they didn't want anybody getting hurt trying to get to the game. They just said, you know what, we're going to play in front of nobody, and if you had a ticket for that game, just, you know, bring it in, or, you know, you can get either a refund or free tickets to another game. Rather than risk people trying to get to the game, because I can't imagine what it would have been like trying to get all those fans in with the roads the way they were. it would have been a nightmare for all the traffic, because they use a lot of police and sheriff to handle the traffic around that arena. We've experienced that one firsthand. So
Absolutely. That's in right downtown.
yep. So that was mine minor league minute. All
That's
right,
a very good one too. And I read that article. I laughed. That was very good because we were just there.
Yep.
And seeing Chubby dancing in the that was really funny.
All right. All right, let's quickly get through the college hockey stuff, because it was it wasn't a well, it was a busy week, but I just didn't pay attention to it that much. But first and foremost, University of Maine, they had 3 games last week. Unusual that they have more than 2. They lost 5-3 twice at Northeastern, and then they came back home for their first home game since mid-December and got a 3-1 win versus UMass. But because of the 2 losses to Northeastern, UMass is not a very good team. They ended up dropping from 18th down to 22nd in the pairwise and are now back as an unranked team. This weekend, they've got a UNH twice at home. UNH is also unranked, but they're kind of sitting right around where Maine is, just outside the ranked area. So maybe they'll get some with a pair of wins there. They might be able to get back into the rankings again. But as far as games going on, I didn't see anything that was earth shattering. I'm not going to go through all the games that went on. Just safe to say there was nothing huge and explosive really to talk about college hockey. We're heading into the meat of the college hockey season, where it's mostly conference games at this point. The non-conference schedule is getting down to a bare minimum at this point. So if you're a fan of college hockey, you're probably aware of this, and you're following your favorite conference much closer than you had been earlier in the year. Now, as far as the pairwise rankings are concerned, right now in the 16th spot in the pairwise, and I'm waiting for it to pull up here, you've got Michigan. And above them and tied for 14th are both Minnesota Duluth and Minnesota. Northeastern is at 13. Penn State is number 12. Number 11 is Omaha. Number 10 is North Dakota. Number 9 is Providence. Number 8, Minnesota. Number 7, Western Michigan. Number 6 is Denver. Number 5, Ohio State. Number 4, Cornell. Number 3, St. Cloud State. Number 2, Clarkson. And number 1, again this week, is Notre Dame. So the pairwise rankings continues to be very Western heavy this time around.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that swings back and forth from year to year, depending on various factors. But this year it seems like the best teams, for the most part, top to bottom, are out west right now. So anyway, that's all there is for college hockey for this week. So that leaves us now with the picks of the week. And we've kind of already gone through yours. Was yours
Yes.
Andrew Cogliano, talking about his suspension and how kind of, well, we went over that if you listened to it early in the show. So let's move on to mine. And I picked this one because it kind of struck home a little bit for me. It was an article I found on NHL.com by David McCarthy, who's an NHL.com correspondent, talking about Patrick Marleau keeping his family tradition alive with a backyard rink. And the photo of the rink, if you haven't seen it, there's a link in the show notes to the article, is only an NHL player or a guy with an NHL player's salary could put up a rink like this. This rink is really, really nice. Better than any outdoor rink that I've ever played in, that's for sure. But anyway, the article reads as follows. Toronto Maple Leafs forward Patrick Marleau knew exactly what he wanted to give his 4 sons for Christmas this year. Growing up in Aneroid, Saskatchewan, Marleau fell in love with playing hockey on a frozen pond near his home, spending hours skating with his older brother Richard and older sister Denise. Living in Northern California during his 19 seasons with the Sharks, he never had the chance to skate outdoors. But after signing with the Maple Leafs on July 2nd, moving his family to Toronto, Marlo finally could pass on one of his most cherished childhood memories to his kids. While he and his wife, Christina, and 4 sons, Landon, who's 11, Brody, who's 8, Jagger, who's 6, and Caleb, who's 3, visited family in California during the Christmas break, Marlo had a contractor install an ice rink, complete with boards, blue lines, and a Maple Leafs logo at center ice in the yard of his Toronto home. Selfishly, it was because of my childhood, Marlo said. I wanted to give it to them and let them have that experience as well. For me, growing up in Saskatchewan, we had a pond that we clean off in the winter and skate on, and I thought that was pretty cool. Being up here in Toronto in the snow and the cold, I thought it'd be a great opportunity for the kids to skate whenever they wanted. Marlo said he and Christina did their best to keep the rink a secret until showing their sons a picture of it on Christmas. Not surprisingly, they couldn't wait to get back home. Since returning to Toronto, the boys head right to the rink as soon as they get out of school. We didn't really tell them about it, and then on Christmas we showed them a picture, and they were pretty pumped, Marlo said. They loved it. They couldn't wait to get back on the plane and get on the ice. They've definitely got the use out of it so far. Marlo said he's been on the rink a few times, mostly to help 3-year-old Caleb, who's learning to skate, but so far he has stayed out of the games. I think my wife's going to be the one who's out there more than me, he said. Hopefully our 3-year-old will start picking it up pretty quick. We got one of those push things, so when you're learning to skate for him, but he just seems to want to watch his brothers right now. And just a side note, those push things, basically, it's essentially, you see elderly and injured people have walkers, with the wheels, and they just use it to, that's basically, they essentially use those on the ice to help people learn how to skate.
Oh, wow.
Marlo said his 3 older boys have behaved themselves on the ice, which is a good thing since there are no penalty boxes on the rink. I guess they're used to playing in the basement, so they're just carrying it outdoors, Marlo said. I'm just happy to see them having fun, seeing them playing with each other and spending hours out there. Kind of gives Mom a break. Marlo said he's been impressed with how eager his sons have been to take on the responsibility of maintaining the rink themselves, but wondered why that same desire has not extended to other chores around the house. It's nice seeing my kids going out there when there's snow to shovel it off, Marlo said. I can't get them to pick up clothes off the floor, but they'll go shovel the snow. So just an interesting article that kind of rang home for me because I grew up in northern Vermont, and the town that I lived in was an old paper mill town. And on the mill property, the mill provided the land. They provided the warming shack. And and essentially, it was all volunteers who maintained it. But we had a rink. And it was literally just down the street from I could see the ice. When I walked home from school, I could look down the rink as I'm walking down the street towards my house from the school, essentially from the school. I could look down the end of the street. It was just beyond this rink. And basically the winters for me from about the age of 8 or 9 all the way up until pretty much that whole club, I guess it was considered an outing club is what they call themselves. The outing club kind of disbanded, and the insurance company started charging way too much, and it just became just too much to maintain the rink after a while. So at some point in my high school years, they stopped putting the ice down every year, which is a shame because now the rink is gone, the shack is gone, all that's left is a concrete pad where the shack once stood. But anyway, I grew up with a rink right down the street from my house. It was a public rink, but it was almost full size, almost NHL size. Not quite as long, but it was as wide as an NHL rink. And every day I'd walk home from school because the school was within walking distance. I'd walk home from school. As I'm walking down the street, I'd look down the end of the street, see if there's anybody down there. If there was anybody down there, or even if there wasn't, I'd get home from school, drop my school bag, grab my stick and skates, and we did the old thing where you put your stick through the hole, the bottom of the skates, the where the blade is, there's a hole there. You put your stick through the hole, you throw it over your shoulder, so you got your skates hanging off your stick, and you're carrying it down, one-handed down the ice or down the. Just grab my, drop off my school stuff, grab my skates and stick, and out the door I went. And my parents wouldn't see me again until it got dark. That was my everyday life for 2 months a year.
Yeah.
That's about how long we would have ice from about, depending on the year, we'd have ice from right just after Christmas until about the first week of March down at that rink. And I lived at that place in the wintertime. And, yeah, those are good old days. So when I saw this article, I'm like, yep, that was my life when I was a kid right there.
Plus, it's a beautiful rink.
And it's that rink that I grew up on, it's where I learned to play, and it's where I learned to love the game. So yeah, this one struck a little home for me. But yeah,
that's a great article.
You've got to see that rink if you want to see what a beautiful outdoor. I mean, it's NHL quality boards, really, just on a smaller scale. That rink doesn't look much more than probably 50 feet wide by maybe 100 feet long, at best. So it's a small rink and no glass, just boards. But yeah, interesting. But I gotta nag him a little bit though. He didn't build it himself. He had a contractor do it. I saw that. I'm like, oh yeah. And who knows? It may have refrigeration, which will keep it so when they have a warm spell, the ice might stay fine. But yeah, we would do the thing when I was growing up, where you go down there and play all afternoon, and of course when I was old enough, my dad was part of the flooding crew, so when I was old enough, I would go down there with them, and if I didn't have school the next day, there would be a lot of long nights there where we would. After all the, you'd have public skating and you'd have a little bit of hockey time and sometimes hockey games on that rink. Well, when all the public would go home, then the flooding crew would come and we would, of course, scrape the ice and then we'd start flooding. And depending on how cold it was, if we had a real cold night, if it was like 10 below or something, we'd stay down at the rink. One of the guys would bring a TV, and we'd watch TV in between, and we would stay there till 3, 4 in the morning just flooding. You'd go out on the ice, you'd flood a coat of water down, because in the early part of the season where you're trying to build up the thickness of the ice, you want to put a lot of coats of ice, and you have to put it down in thin coats, because if you put it down too thick, it would puddle, and then you'd get shell ice, and that's no good. So you put it down in thin coats and then build it up over time. Well, there were a lot of nights if I didn't have school the next day, we'd start flooding at 8. We wouldn't leave there till about 4 in the morning, and we'd do about 1 flood an hour if it was cold enough. And it would take us about 20 minutes to flood the ice, and then we'd go inside. And the warming shack was basically heated by a single wood stove that was basically a steel barrel laid down on its side. And they cut the end out and weld in a door, and we would, throw the wood inside the barrel, and they'd fire that thing up so hot that the barrel would start to glow. You'd shut the lights off, and you'd see the barrel glowing orange. It was the craziest thing. And we'd get off the ice after flooding. Of course, our mittens and gloves were, because you get the ice or the water on it, but the ice would, and your gloves are frozen solid and you can barely move them by the time you're done flooding. You go in, you just lay the gloves down on the stove, and they'd steam, and you'd see the steam come up, and you leave them on there a few minutes, turn them over, and then they'd steam and boil away all the water, and then you just hang them up on a wire that we had set up over the stove. and then, just let them dry until the next time we go out an hour later. So a lot of time was spent on that outdoor ice.
It's good, man.
But
Those
it was a lot
are
of
great
fun.
memories.
Yep. So, well, good. All right. Well, that's it for our show for this week. Another close to 2-hour show.
Even though it's a bye week, there's a lot to talk about.
Well, and not only that, the reason our shows end up being so long is we've been getting a lot of feedback lately, and one of the feedback things that I've been getting, that I've been seeing, is the folks that are giving us feedback are telling us that they don't want to just hear the news from us. They want to hear what we think of the news. They want our insight. So we've been spending a little bit more time on each article that we're talking about in order to do that, because that's essentially what our listeners are looking for. So, because everybody can find the news by just going online. They can read the news, but to hear what our insight is why most people listen to us. So that's what we're trying to do. So, but if you do want to give us feedback, you certainly can. You can tweet me. I'm at Wayne Halley 9, and Steve is at SBall504man. Or you can send us email at feedback@thehockeynuts.com. And, of course, you can reach us through our Facebook page at facebook.com/thehockeynuts. Our YouTube channel can be reached at hockeynuts.com/YouTube. And, of course, we live stream the recording of our podcast each week on YouTube. So you can watch it as we make it, or you can wait for us to put it together and send it out to your favorite podcast catcher, which basically we can be found anywhere podcasts are found. No need to list all the places there. Everybody knows them by now. So with that, we'll go ahead and end the show for another week, and we will talk to you next week, Steve.
Have a good week, Wayne. Good to talk to you again.
All right, you too. All right.
Good night.
All right. Only
Now,
one interruption.
I think I don't think we can do it this time. I think January we made a decision. We're trying to get through January with our bills and stuff. So, but let me check with her, see what she says. Hang on one second.
No worries.
On that game.
Yeah, no worries.
Yep. Let me call you back on it, Wayne.
Okay.
I'll call you tomorrow. She's asleep right now.
Oh, okay. It's 2-2.
So I'll call you back.
In true Vegas fashion, it's 2-2 right now in the game against Florida.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They've got
got
Subban in net tonight, which means we're going to see Fleury on Sunday. Probably.
Yeah. If I can at all go, I will. But
So
I need to keep it like at 20.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to buy the tickets until Sunday. And I just saw, because I don't know for sure I can make it until I get back from Boone. I'm planning on leaving early Sunday morning to go up to Boone, and then my daughter wants to run a couple errands while I'm up there. She doesn't have a car. And then I'll go back to her dorm, drop her off, and then I'm hoping to leave around noon after we get those errands done, and then hopefully get back here by about 3-ish at my house anyway. But if you were to come, what I'll probably do is buy the tickets when I get back from Boone. And they should still be at that roughly. At worst case, they'll be, instead of $23 a ticket, they'll be probably $31, $32. I'm looking at the prices right now, $31, $32 a ticket, because there aren't many of those $23 tickets left. But I also saw that, and and I don't know when this sale ends, but Carolina Hurricanes is advertising $40 lower bowl seats.
Oh, wow.
So if we were to had to pay $32 anyway for a ticket,
Yeah.
I just assumed go up to 40 and sit in the lower bowl instead of up in the nosebleeds.
Yeah.
But that's just me. I'm crazy like that.
No, I understand that.
So, but I know I don't know what my son's plans are for the weekend either. So, because I potentially would bring him. Somebody will go with me. I know that.
Right. If yeah, it's we had everybody in town for Christmas for I don't know whole week. So
Yeah.
money's
they're
tight
saying
this month, and
they're saying
I
all
think,
games from January 21st to February 18th are $40 a ticket
wow, in the lower bowl.
in the lower bowl. Oh, but you got to buy them between now and the 20 from January 19th through the 21st. You have to buy the tickets
For the remainder of the season.
Well, it says from January 19th to the 21st, take advantage of Carolina Hurricanes' best lower-level ticket offer of the season. And for 11 games in January and February, save money on parking and your favorite PNC Arena concessions. All lower-level seats, except for the first and second row, are $40. So they're really trying to fill the building. This is like the first major thing that the new owner is doing to fill the building. I don't know if I was a season ticket holder, I might be pissed about this, but
yeah,
season ticket members that gain exclusive early access to this offer on Thursday 18, and will receive additional seat vouchers, 2 vouchers per seat for full season ticket members, and 1 voucher per seat. I don't care, season tickets. Okay, limit 8 tickets per household per game. Offer available online for general public from 12 a.m. through 11:59 on the 20th. So I could we could essentially walk up to the building without a ticket, purchase tickets on that day at that price, $40 for a lower bowl. And PNC Arena's box office during, it says reduce parking. They didn't say what. And then reduce.
So there's hundreds of tickets at that price?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of tickets. Basically, they're trying to fill the building every game. With 5 concession favorites. Excludes. Let's see. Oh, $10 parking is limited to the first 300 cars in the early bird parking lot.
Still, you might make that.
So that you'd have to go early. Save money by arriving early. It's $10 for the first 300 cars.
And I like it when they have dollar hot dog night.
And you got to come in gate A.
If it's dollar hot dog night, you can eat at the game, you know?
Yeah. Gate A. That's way the hell up there. That's on the opposite. That's way out of the way, the discounted parking.
Right.
It's like it's parking next to the the new field house that they just built for the football team. It's way out there. That's where the discounted parking is. That's a long ways away. Okay, whatever. It'd be $15 otherwise.
Okay.
So, anyway, yeah, just let me know. If you can, great. If not, no big deal. I'll bring my son.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you.
And but either way, I'm gonna find my way to that game one way or another.
Yeah.
That's an awesome deal that they're offering, though. I wonder if if that includes the Boston game. No.
When do they play that?
It doesn't include the Boston game. It includes just these 11 games. Vegas, Ottawa, Montreal, Detroit, San Jose, Philadelphia, Vancouver, Colorado, L.A., Islanders, and Devils. Just those games have $40 seats.
I'd go see the Kings play, too.
Yeah. That's on February 13th. I won't be in town that day.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I will, but I'll probably be working.
That's a Wednesday night. That's a Tuesday night.
Yeah. I get back Monday from my trip up north.
Oh, okay.
So that would be a bit of a tall order for me because she'll probably schedule me 11 to 7 that night. Tuesday night. So I probably can't make that one. But, yeah, L.A. would be a good team. San Jose would be a good team. That's February 4th. I know you don't want to go see the Islanders.
If it was the Rangers, I'd go in a heartbeat.
Yeah, unfortunately, the teams that the people down here love to follow. Notice there's no Penguins, there's no Rangers, there's no Buffalo.
Yep.
No Boston.
Yeah.
It's basically games. I'm surprised Philly's in there. It's basically games that don't draw a good crowd anyway.
Yeah.
So they figure might as well offer $40 seats for those games. That's still a great deal. $40 for a lower bowl. You can't, they're obviously trying to fill that lower bowl. Looks better on TV if the lower bowl is full.
Oh yeah.
And I think
that is a great deal.
That's a nice promotion. And then they've got on all those games, they've got $3 hot dogs.
$3 hot dogs?
Yep. They're normally $5.50. $3 popcorn, normally $6. $3 nachos, normally $6. $3 bottled water, normally $5. $5 beers, normally $7.50. And Budweiser in the bottle is normally $9.50 and it's $5.
$9.50 for a bottle of Budweiser.
For a 16-ounce bottle of Budweiser.
What size? For what?
A 16-ounce bottle of Budweiser, $9.50. It'll be $5. You can buy a 12-pack for $5 at a grocery store. Well, they got those salaries they got to pay.
God, that's insane. The cups of draft we saw when we were there, some of them were $10.
Yeah, the draft beers are $7.50. So the ones in a cup.
Yeah.
But if you get the bottle of Budweiser, that's $9.50. But for those 11 games, it's all $5 a drink. Yep. I'm definitely gonna.
That was what was amazing to me was when I was in Madison Square Garden, and this is going back in 2014. It was $10.50 for a draft beer, and that was Miller Lite. That was, you're not paying that for Labatt's Blue.
Yeah.
And the number of people with stacked cups, 3 and 4 and 5 beers.
Oh yeah,
they're 2 or 3 beers.
They're walking out of the arena $200 lighter in the wallet.
Oh yeah.
By the time they get the
$30,
beer,
for
yeah. By the time they buy the beer, the food, the tickets, and the parking. Yeah, they're out $250 for a night. Yeah, I can't blow that kind of money on a game. That's for sure.
Crazy.
Pretty much what I do is when I go to a game, I make sure I walk in the building with a full stomach. And if I buy anything, I might buy one drink or soda, whatever. Yeah. And that's it.
Yep.
Because by the time I get the tickets and parking, I'm done. I don't want to spend any more money.
Oh yeah. I don't blame you.
So, yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to go, I don't know what I'm going to watch. I see the NHL Network is just bouncing around from game to game. They don't have any one game on, so.
Yeah. Well, let me call you back on this, Wayne. I'll call you back tomorrow sometime.
Yeah, no rush.
I'll answer.
Just let me know. Yeah. Sunday is when I'm going to decide for sure whether A, I'm going or not, or B, where I'm going to, anyway. I'll finalize details on Sunday, so.
Okay.
From there. All right.
That sounds good, man.
All right. You have yourself a good night.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, good to talk to you. We'll see you soon.
Yep, we'll do. All right. See ya.
Okay. Bye-bye now.